This is Chrissy.
This is Shirin.
And this is Two Girls Talking Shit.
Each episode will have deep discussion and conversation on topics that matter to us, ranging from wellness to politics.
Of course, with a healthy dose of pettiness, side-eye, and shade.
You ready, Chrissy?
You ready, Shirin?
This is
TGTS.
Hey, this is Shirin.
It's Chrissy.
And today we're going to talk about using your voice. Isn't that right, Chrissy?
Absolutely. How to do it, feel good about it, feel confident with it. All those things is what we're going to talk about today.
So today is technically supposed to be our last episode of this season, but we have a little surprise for everyone.
We do. We're really excited because we have a little bonus episode coming next week. It's going to be shorter than normal, but it's going to be really, really good. I'm pretty excited about it. So Shirin, tell the people what they want to know. What is it about?
So we're going to do a really short episode, but from the amazing love and feedback that we've gotten from all of you, it seems pretty clear that you love when Chrissy and I tell stories. And so we are going to tell a story about the other person, and we're not going to tell the other person what that story is, and we're going to do it just live on the podcast. And we just want you to be there and witness us telling the other person our favorite story about them.
Listen, I'm so excited for this episode, but I don't know. I feel a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to come up with a story. I mean, there's so many stories, but I feel like it's crunch time. I got to pick a good story. It's got to be good.
I know. I feel like we have so many stories, but you have to think of one. You're like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know any stories now. Where are all the stories?
I have had
sure
no
I see this
memories.
person all the time, but I don't know any stories about them.
I have no recollection of meeting this woman.
Yeah, but it's going to be good. So definitely tune in. We're really excited about it. And also we're going to share another special opportunity we have. So what's that all about?
So one of the things also that we love about all of you, everyone who listens, is this feels like such a community and such a family already. And Chrissy and I have talked about this once before, but we really have not mentioned it enough during this podcast. We have a retreat. Memorial Day weekend. It is called the Glow Up Retreat. And it is honestly a really incredible experience. It's all inclusive. And it's like the sleepaway camp that you wanted when you were younger, but like as a grown ass woman.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so much fun, y'all. It's such a great time. And definitely it's not one of those retreats where like you see us for a little bit and then we disappear. We are literally all day hanging out, having fun, and laughing, engaging like all day long. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So it's an incredible retreat. It's Memorial Day weekend and registration is still open. We have about 10 spots left. And we really would love for you to come if you've enjoyed hanging out with us in your phone, in your car, or on your computer. We know that you would love the Glow Up. So you can check it out at theglowupreTreat.com. We're also on Instagram at the Glow Up Retreat, I think. Or is it the Glow Up?
I think it's at the Glow Up Retreat.
The Glow Up Retreat.
Yeah.
Or you can just DM us about, if you have any questions or anything, but that's coming up soon. And yeah, if like the holidays have you more, drained than excited, then this is the thing to do.
Come hang out with us. And we honestly would love to meet some of the TGTS community in person. So come hang with us. It'll be so much fun.
I mean, also it's our retreat. So obviously we think it's amazing, but like, it's such a beautiful like mix of, we do these wonderful workshops. Chrissy's going to do stuff around body liberation. I'll do stuff around mindset and mindfulness. And our friend Allison always has amazing workshops on community. But then we have like so much fun. There's like a spa nearby where we all go and just like soak up in the tub. There's hikes where we have like a dance party the last night. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
So much fun. It's a really, really good time. So check out the details, DM us with your questions, and basically just come hang with us. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
Come.
Yes.
But before we get into today's topic, what's the tea, Shirin? What's happening in your life?
Okay, listen. So, newsflash. I'm getting married again.
Again? Wait.
Chrissy knows this.
More.
Chrissy,
Tell us more. I know I'm acting all shocked, but still, again.
She's literally invited to it. So my husband and I, we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, on the 11th of January. 111. That was
congratulations.
Thank you. And we just had a really small wedding, and then we realized we wanted to have something bigger with like all our people. And so we're having another one in late summer of this year. And first of all, I keep forgetting we're getting married again, which is terrible. Cause like, it's not like something like a month before you can be like, oh, let me find, the decoration.
Everything.
Yeah. Everything is ridiculous. Anyone who's listening or has been part of like wedding planning for a friend or a sibling, this industry is the worst.
It's
Right?
the
They
worst.
take this
Yeah.
beautiful concept of two people joining in front of everyone that they love and wanting to celebrate with them and make it into this like thing where you find yourself at 2 a.m. trying to like look at different color swatches of dresses and see which one is like off-white, which one's like kind of white, and which one's like super duper white. And it's just so dumb. But
It's weird. It's weird.
it's very well. You got married when you were like a baby.
I was a baby. I was 22 when I did it. And also like I just graduated, or like, no, I was planning my wedding when I was graduating. It was a lot. It is weird. But I feel like weddings now though, because things have come so far and that there's like Pinterest, there's like all this stuff, right? There's advantages.
I mean, also though, I will say there's actually a huge movement now with weddings not being so intense, which has actually been really nice. Like I think with the whole like eco-consciousness and people being just more mindful and whatever, like actually I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm reading about and looking at and being inspired by are a lot more chill. Like I feel like there was a time when if you did not have a photo booth at your wedding,
you were like totally not cool.
Right. But like that's like, it's just,
Wait a minute. So are you saying there's not going to be a photo booth?
I mean, I could like take pictures of you.
Oh God. I mean, I'm still going to come, but let me just say I'm feeling a little disappointed right now. I'm totally kidding.
Anyway, so I find myself forgetting we're getting married again, which is great. I'm super excited about it. But Chrissy and I, actually, we should talk about this next week.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Our next episode. Chrissy and I are going wedding dress shopping on Sunday.
So excited.
And I have a budget and I'm really sticking to it. Like I'm not falling into this mess, but like also, these people are good. They'll be like, what's $500 more? And then you're like buying a $10,000 gown. So Chrissy,
I mean, I'm going to hold you to your budget.
Don't let me. So
are you, okay, well, let's talk about this. Are you going to at least try on a $10,000 gown? Like, haven't you ever wondered, like, what does $10,000 feel like on your skin?
Oh my God, that sounds delicious.
Right? What does that feel like?
But I'm afraid I'll try it on and then I'll be like, you know what? They're right. This is it. I got to buy the $10,000 dress.
And also, I'm a terrible liar. And if it is the dress, I'm not going to be like, oh, no, that's not the dress. I'm like, oh, I'm going to start crying. And I don't even cry. So if I start crying, you know how serious I am. And then you're going to have a conundrum. So I don't know. You do what you want to do. It's your day on Sunday. I'm there to support you either way.
Chrissy, I'm going to uninvite you to this thing. I need you to. Well, Chrissy is also a very rational person. And so I feel like if we have whatever, and also the thing with gowns is like, first of all, there's no judgment here. If, if you have celebrated your wedding or you're planning your wedding and you've spent money in different ways, like, we all have different priorities and ways we want to like celebrate that day. So you do you, boo. But for me, that I want that money towards some other things. So just keep reminding me, like, is this what you want?
I'm going to remind you. If you try to buy a $10,000 dress, I'm like, homegirl, that's like 2.5, maybe 3 trips right there. Do you want this dress for one day or do you want to travel the world? You make your decision right now, ma'am.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah. So that's kind of what's happening in my life right now. Chrissy, how about you?
Oh, there's not much happening over here, honestly. Just lifing. I mean, there is one thing new to my life. I started running.
You talked about that.
So I did it. I started doing it.
I did it. I've been doing
it. It's been feeling pretty good, actually. Surprisingly, it's not that bad. I'm kind of like, I could get into this a little bit more. So, but I really like running outside. I don't really want to get into the treadmill thing, and it's getting a little colder. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's been feeling good. I've been feeling okay. The one problem I have had is that I have shin splints. I've been getting them really bad.
That's literally the first question I was going to ask you. How are your shins?
Yeah, my shin splints are bad, y'all. So if you have ever dealt with shin splints with running and you have any suggestions for what made it better, please let me know. Because that's the only thing that's standing in my way right now from me being a marathoner. I'm just kidding, y'all. That's never going to happen. I'm just joking. But I would like some relief from the shin splints. So if you have some thoughts, hit us this up and let me know.
Well, what's weird, Chrissy, is I feel like all of a sudden it's the new year. And I know like it's not New Year, New You, but like she texted me the other day and said, I just cooked something. who is this? And then you're going to the gym regularly. What is happening?
I actually don't recognize myself right now. I'm not really sure. I have been going to the gym super regularly. I joined a class at the gym, which I really love. That's keeping me accountable. Then I started running. I cooked like several meals this week, like actually cooked, like I meant from beginning to end. I cooked. I don't know what's happening. And I
Wait,
had no resolutions around
what
this.
is
There is no new year, new you over here. But somehow this new person has been emerged and I'm not sure what's happening.
maybe it's the fact that you're just like so chill about it. Like there's no stress, there's no like intense pressure. It's just like, let's just see what happens. I don't know.
I don't even like cooking. I don't know why. I'm just like, I went to the store the other day. This is so against everything I ever do. I went to the store and I just like looked around at the produce and like, what can I make? And I was like, oh, here's some zucchini and some squash and maybe some onions. I'm like, maybe I'll just saute that. And this is how bad my cooking skills are, y'all. I stopped before I bought it and I Googled, can you saute zucchini and squash? Because anything beyond sauteing was too much. So I Googled that in the store and it was like, oh yeah, all you need is like olive oil and salt and pepper. I'm like, done. But I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Oh my God.
You're laughing at me way too hard, Shirin. Way too hard.
Is this like Freaky Friday?
I think so, kind of.
Are we switching like
it could be happening
bodies
right now. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we're gonna get to the topic, but before we do this, I just have to say, Shirin is a phenomenal cook, right? Like I'm
Oh,
talking.
thank you.
It's true. It's so phenomenal. Like she cooks everything from scratch and like listen, she made this beautiful, amazing Iranian meal on New Year's Eve. And it was so good. I still think about that sometimes. It was so good.
I really love to cook and I love to show my love through food. If anyone
Yeah.
is listening and can like, like they're like that, like you are my people. Like, I don't know. I think for me growing up, my sister isn't a big cooker. I watched my mom and like, I just loved it, but I just think it's like a form of expression and showing love. And I don't get like, I don't get overwhelmed when I'm in the kitchen or scared. Cause I'm like, oh, if it just sucks, then you just throw it out and you do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like you and my sister. I am your sister. My sister is very much like you. She loves to cook for people. It makes her really happy. And I like to eat it. So, I mean, there we go. Okay, should we get to the topic though? Because I feel like this could go on for a long time.
We can go on forever. So we wanted to talk about using your voice. One of the topics we actually wanted to talk about from the very beginning was around confidence, but it's like confidence is a really hard one because I think it's made up of like many different components, but using your voice just felt really good because I think Chrissy and I have both built platforms, especially with our business, where it really is our authentic voice, which has been very scary and still scary sometimes. But I think we've kind of been able to navigate that in a really like, I don't know, compassionate way. So Chrissy, have you always been someone who just like voiced their opinion and was like, this is how I feel, this is who I am? Because some people naturally just are like that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think in some ways I've kind of been that way, but not like around my friends and my family though. Like right, not around like in a public like way. I'm talking about this on like social media. That was not really my thing. But I do feel like I was a very opinionated child, even about like this is just the way the world is. I just had always, I mean, it's part of my, I think just I've always had that strong personality. But I don't think I've been great at always verbalizing it outside of my immediate circle or feeling comfortable doing that outside of my immediate circle. Because again, sometimes I say things that other people don't agree with. And I think with family, for me anyways, right? For me with family, it can be easier, I feel like, because I'm like, well, they have to like me anyways. Doesn't matter. Like, I'm still going to be your family. I don't care. Which some people may feel very different about their family. Like, right? Like I've met people who have a really hard time voicing their opinion with their families. I've always just felt really comfortable with that. So I don't think it's always been that way. And I definitely think in my adult life, I've gone through phases of like really, we've both talked about our perfectionist tendencies in the past on the podcast. So I definitely think there were times when I didn't talk about things because I wanted people to like me and I wanted to make sure I was saying everything the right way. And just like how I wanted to be very careful about how I was perceived in the world. So I do think that like kind of like hindered me in a lot of ways from like speaking my truth or being really honest and vulnerable with people about my opinions about things. So I don't know. I feel like I've gone in like periods of time when I was really opinionated. I think probably like up to getting close to like the high school age maybe. And then I kind of fell into like, I just want to say, I want to be liked by people. So I'm just going to kind of go with the popular opinion. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. So, there's also like a difference, I think, because I've always been a very talkative person. I'm just like
Yeah.
very chatty and talky, but
Me
also,
too, by the way. It was
yeah.
my nickname,
What was your
but
nickname?
Chatterbox.
Wow. Oh,
I know.
that's actually kind of really crappy.
Well, actually, you know who nicknamed me that? Like one of my best friends in elementary school, her dad. He's like, "Hey, Chatterbox," and I'm like,
Wow.
"I know." So whatever. I was chatty though, so we
I
have that in
mean,
common.
anyways, we can talk about that. Those labels that are put on us when we're younger that like put us in these boxes or make us feel like, because it's like, that's like, that's just not a nice,
He wasn't
chatter.
nice. He
Not
wasn't
nice.
nice. Chatterbox. Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway, but so I think for me, I was the youngest in my family and my sister's 5 years older than me. And it's hard because I have these very vivid memories of us sitting around the dinner table. We would usually have dinner together, especially if my dad was in town. And I never felt like my opinions were smart enough. I really I had
Mm.
that very clear memory, and so like I feel like I was very quiet when it came to kind of like our family circle. I was very funny, I was very entertaining, but when it came to like adding to the conversation in a smart way or in a way that would be thought provoking, I didn't feel that way. And I'm not sure, but I knew I do remember though, I feel like my mom at one point, like I was talking to my friends or something, and my mom just kind of was like, "Oh, like you're like you have a lot of opinions and ideas." And I just think it was like the environment that I grew up in. And so I had kind of created that identity around myself that I don't really have, really interesting things to say. I have a lot to say. I can make people laugh, but the
Right.
things that I say aren't going to contribute to like the conversation going deeper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too because just like again you identified as like, oh, I'm funny and like I'm entertaining, but I don't really have anything to add that's like more meaningful to the conversation. And so then how do you feel like you got out of that? Because obviously that's not the person. I mean, you are funny, don't get me wrong, you make me laugh all the time. So, but you also like are very smart. You add we have really deep conversations all the time. So what was the transition for you? Like, how did you get out of that phase as a child into like the person that you are now? Not like at this moment, but how did you grow into that?
I think I actually, in high school and college, that's when I started to kind of realize that like I had something to add to the conversation, especially when I went to college. Oh my God. I have this like another memory of mine where I was like in this anthropology course, and it was like anthropology 101. The teacher was amazing. We were reading about white privilege. Like this was back in, I don't know, like back in the day. And I just remember my mind being blown, and I was the girl in class. This was a class of like 100 people, and because my mind was so blown by it all, because I was like, oh my God, this is my experience. Like this is what I lived. I remember just putting my hand up all the time to add to the conversation. I was the annoying girl, but it was like just such a freeing thing. And and then once in a while, someone would come up to me after and be like, "Thank you so much for saying that thing." And I think that just really built this level of trust in like using my voice, and that there's someone out there who agrees with me and who also needs to hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think that like is so important because I think that's the thing sometimes that we forget. Like sometimes we take our own experiences or our own perspectives and we like don't think they're important.
Right.
Right. And then it's like that one person saying, like, wow, I'm so happy you said that. That made such a difference. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay. I guess like my experiences and my perspective are really valuable. And not only are they valuable, like that people want to hear what I have to say. And that maybe just sharing something as simple as my experience can be really beneficial and can serve humanity. And you're like, oh, wow. Like, okay, this is pretty cool, actually.
And I was actually, while I was saying that, I was thinking, you also brought this up though. What sometimes ends up happening in those situations though, when we use our voice, is I was like, oh yeah, but I started to feel like I should say the right thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so that also gets kind of woven into that, where like when I use my voice, it has to be like the most profound thing, the right thing, the thing that's going to be like the best thing that everyone's going to be like, damn, Shirin's so smart, you know? So then that also gets kind of woven into it too.
It becomes like a mind fuck. And I mean, especially when talking about like your college experience, it also when we're talking about like making sure you're saying the right thing, I went to predominantly white university. And so like if I'm speaking on issues like around race or like, I took a lot of sociology classes. So there's like so many intersections. And then I felt like I'm like speaking for all Black people. So I better not fuck this up. Right.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I got to get this right because I'm the only Black person in this class and I'm speaking on behalf of all the Black people in the world and I cannot get this wrong. And you're definitely right. It becomes this thing of like, it like, you get like just caught in this like mind fuck about the whole situation. And I think one thing, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I know for me personally, I had to let go of is like when I started using my voice on my platform and all this kind of stuff. Like, have you ever said something that like, you're like, wow, damn, that was really good. And then people also were like, wow, that's so good. And then the next time you're like, oh my God, I have to somehow top the last thing I just said. How much pressure is that? Right?
Oh my gosh, I've definitely had that where something was just so profound and then like the next like it's like what how do you follow that up? Like a puppy post? Like that's it.
That's what I have now.
That's all. No, it is like this, I think that's actually a really great point we're bringing up is like our identity, like what does it mean to use our voice, right? What does it mean? Are we using our voice to be right? Are we using our voice to be liked? Or are we using our voice as an expression of self? And I think that's probably what we have been navigating. Because I think
Yeah.
also as you come out of college, those are such formative years. Like you were getting grades. You were being,
Right.
like you were being told like, yes, this is right. Yes, this is wrong. And then you go into the world and it's really hard to get out of that mindset, especially if you come from a household where you are marginalized, right? If you are a person of color, if you have always been trying to prove to people that you belong in the spaces where you find yourself in, right?
Yeah.
And so you go into the world, and I do think at the beginning of Wholehearted Coaching, a lot of the stuff I was writing about was like, oh, I'm using my voice to show you that I'm good at what I do. I'm using my voice to show you that like I know what I'm talking about, which is really,
Absolutely.
really hard. It's very hard.
It's a lot of pressure too, right? It's a lot of pressure to feel like you have to prove to people that like you deserve to be here almost, even though you know you deserve it. Be like, but I need them to understand. And it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And it's a lot of pressure to feel like you have to show up to a platform, to a space every day and always have something meaningful and profound to say. And I think like sometimes social media in particular can feel like that's what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I know one thing that I've done is just like relieve the pressure of like, I just don't put that pressure on myself anymore. Again, I talk about this often with you. I'm like no spokesperson for like social media 101 because like I don't do anything that a business coach would tell you to do in terms of how I run my social media. But it has been really freeing for me personally not to feel like I always have to be saying something that's profound in order to post, or that I just have to like post every day because I don't like always have anything that I feel like I want to say. But again, I think this comes back to like what you just talked about when like, what is your purpose when you think about using your voice? What does it actually mean? Is it an expression of yourself? Is it for likes? Is it for follows? Because then when you start like introducing all those things, it like really, for me anyways, when I worried about like likes and follows and all that stuff, it really like took away from it being an expression of myself,
Yeah.
right? Because I started thinking about like, well, what do people want to hear? What are like, instead of just saying what's on my mind and it's on my heart.
I love that. I think the scariest part of really authentically using your voice when it actually is the fullest expression of yourself. And this is what actually in the singing world was so hard is that when someone doesn't like it, it
Yeah.
almost feels like they don't like you, right? Because
Right.
it's an extension. And I think let's talk about some of the scary things about, because this is why it took me so long to actually start authentically writing in my voice. And I'm sure we can talk about this too, which is like the post that felt the most scary, like that first one where you're like,
Yeah.
oh God. What were some of the fears around that for you, Chrissy, of like really actually expressing what was on your mind and in your heart, and maybe it went against the grain?
Absolutely. So what you already said, for one, what if people don't like me, right? What if my message is too controversial for people? What if people like hear me talking about these things and think I'm just like an angry Black woman? What if people don't want to like be involved with like my business because they don't like my political posts? What if what if I don't get it right? Because that happens, right? And just like a lot of fear around just what other people would think,
Mm-hmm.
and like imposter syndrome, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, am I qualified enough to be talking about these things or be doing these things? So I could probably go on and on and on, but those are like some of the big ones that came up for me. There's so many. There's the big ones that came up for me. And I just think, I don't know, it's challenging. And I think one thing for sure about social media, even now, that like I dislike about authentically, I mean, I always still do it, but the one thing I don't like about social media is that people are like so quick to like look for something that you did wrong to call you out, like this cancel culture on social
Mm-hmm.
media. Like, I do think that people need to get canceled sometimes because they say like really fucked up things, but also I feel like there's less space for people to just be a human error because all of us mess things up, right? And we're
Mm-hmm.
all still learning. None of us have it figured out. None of us have it perfect. And I think like social media has this weird energy where people are like now trying to like one up each other on like who's the expert, and like who got it wrong, and there's like a lot of back and forth energy that I don't really care for. So I think that fear of like messing up still shows up all the time for me anyways.
Yeah, I think though all the ones you listed, I think for me was really like getting it right was a big one, and also just fear of people, like that vulnerability factor, right? Because when you are fully writing something that's from your heart and your mind, it feels so vulnerable and so naked. And like there, it's like funny, like if you have I want us to talk about this in a bigger context, not just if you have like an online business or anything, but let's say for instance you have Instagram or you have an email list. Oh my God, when you see people unfollow you, right? Because of something you posted or an email you sent out, like it's really, really hard to kind of, uh, be like, okay, this isn't about me. Well, it is about me, right? It is kind of
Right.
about me. They don't, and maybe it is like they don't like my opinion, or maybe it's like they don't want to be getting this stuff, whatever it is, but also realizing that the people who want your work and who want to hear your work, or who want to hear about your opinion and what you have to say, those are the people you want in your life anyway, right? Like,
Right.
so if they are unfollowing you, if they are unsubscribing, if you find that when you start using your voice, friends are like, yo, girl, like, I don't know what's up with you, but like, I can't hang with you anymore. They're actually doing you a favor, because I would rather have a core audience community around me, whether that's professional or personal, that is down for what I say. And also adding to your point with making a mistake, I've always said that like making mistakes is like, that's if you are trying to really push the boundaries and trying to really like explore and get curious, you will make mistakes. And it's not like the mistake that like we really have to look at, it's like who you become after you make that mistake, right? Like how you respond if
Yeah.
people call you out, if whatever, like that's what's more important. It's not the fact you made a mistake. We are going to make mistakes, especially in this day and age when, there's so much shifting and changing in our culture, and the language is changing, and it's a
Right.
beautiful, great thing, but we all have these blind spots, right? And so for me, it's more important of like when someone calls you on something, of really addressing it. And sometimes
Yeah.
in this world of cancel culture, I feel like people are very quick to just kind of like point the finger. And so sometimes it's a bit of like figuring out what's going on, but also like responding to that in a really open-hearted way. Because Chrissy and I have witnessed this online, I'm sure you have too, where people just like they get called out on something and they just attack the other person,
Right.
and it's really, really disheartening to see.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. And you're so right, and like the response is what matters. And I know for me at least, I can't speak for all of the internet world, obviously, but when I see something that like someone said that's really problematic, I'm more concerned about how they respond to it.
Yeah.
And then like the mistake that they made, because we're all capable of making mistakes. That's so just it's gonna happen, absolutely. So here's my question for you then. In regards to like posting, you talked about like, it took you a while in your business to get to that place where you felt really vulnerable. Like, what was it that like flipped the switch and like really helped you transition into being like, all right, I know this is really scary, but like I really want to be authentic with how I'm sharing my work?
Well, I wanted my page to be a reflection of me.
Yeah.
And I just started looking at it and I'm like, oh, this just looks like every other coach's page. Like it does,
Mhm.
it's like I feel like I feel like I'm doing and saying the right things, but like this just doesn't feel right. And that was it. It was because I wasn't really saying what was on my heart and my mind in my own voice. And so I remember that first post where I like got really vulnerable and wrote something that was super personal and was really included my opinion. And I remember I like posted it and then like threw my phone across the room. Actually, no, I was going on a flight. So I couldn't check my phone. I got on the flight and then like I got back and I had this incredible like response from people about what I had written. And it was just confirmation that like, again, just like in that class in college, like someone out there was really waiting for that message to come in the way that I could write it. Right. And again, it's
Yeah.
like, all the things we're saying, it's like, we're all kind of saying the same thing if you're in this world that we're in of wellness, but we're all saying it in our own specific voice and in our own specific way. That's why it's resonating with you. That's why you listen to us. And that's why we love this community so much, right? Because we are all like one spirit, one mind, one heart. And so I think that's what we forget is like, yes, someone else may be writing about the thing, but they're not writing it or talking about it or expressing it the way that you are going to express it. And someone out there needs that.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because, well, for one, my story is very similar to yours. I posted the scary thing when I was going to be traveling and couldn't be on my phone, and had a very similar experience. I came back and it was like really great feedback, and again, a confirmation that somebody wants to hear what I have to say. But I love what you just said and brought up about, I think sometimes people get caught up in the idea of like, I don't have anything to share because everybody's already talking about it. But you are so accurate in that, like, we are all saying, like, none of us are inventing anything new.
No.
None of us, okay? But we're just saying it our own way. And the way that you express something, or the way that I express something resonates with people in different ways, right? And so that's what I think is so powerful about using your voice as well, is that like I like really believe this, like somebody is waiting for you to share that information in the way that you share it, and they're going to resonate with that. And so I think it's so easy to like look around like social media spaces and see like, oh my God, this person said this and it's so powerful, and this person said this, and all they're doing is sharing the same ideas in their specific and unique voice. And the sooner and the more comfortable that you get using your own voice in the way that feels good for you, like the more powerful your message will be. And I think, so often I think people, you look at like, or maybe some people look at what somebody's doing and how they're saying it, and you're like, wow, that's so impactful. I should talk about things in that way, or I should. And it's like, no, it's because they're doing what works for them. And like, you have to find out what feels comfortable and resonates with you, and just like focus on that, right? Put the blinders on, like what everybody else is doing, because there's so many people doing things on the internet right now that are like really impactful, but they're just not for me. And that's okay, right? Like I share in the way that I share, you share in the way that you share, Shirin, and that's what makes it really special and meaningful.
So Chrissy and I, we did this like workshop at Ignited. It's a summit that we go to every year. It's in Seattle. Our friend Allison hosts it. It's amazing. It's in April. You should check out Ignited Womxn Summit because we'll be there.
Yes. Yes.
But we did a workshop around voice and using your voice. And I think this is kind of what inspired this. And we had everyone kind of do this exercise where we asked them, if we had them like, so maybe you want to try this at home, which is like taking a piece of paper and like dividing it in half. And on one side, writing down the people who, if you used your voice, they would be like, what are you doing? That's the stupidest thing. I can't believe you said that. Right. Writing that down, or writing down everyone who comes to mind. And then on the other side, writing down all the people who would be like, oh my gosh, Chrissy, I can't believe you waited this long to write about this, to say this. This is the best thing ever. Thank you so, so much. And I would recommend everyone to try that at home. But it was such an incredible thing to witness people respond, like telling us their responses to that exercise. Do you remember that, Chrissy?
Oh, absolutely. I totally remember. And it was such a powerful exercise. And I think the one common denominator for most people is that the person who would say these things were themselves.
Yes, it was themselves, or like people they didn't even care about. Like some people,
Or people
like,
they didn't like.
yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, my dad. And she's like, I hate my dad.
I haven't talked to him in 5 years. Right.
Or, or sometimes they'd be like, I don't even know, like, or one person wrote down, like, I don't know anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know anyone who would not be okay with me using my voice. And so I do think that like that's being scared of what others are going to think of us is such a big part of just being open and honest and authentic.
Yeah, and I think it can be really like you said, it's really scary, it's very vulnerable, right? Because you're putting out something that is like really important to you and special to you, and like you're sharing it with like the internet is the whole world, like anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be really scary, but like also it's such a beautiful way to express yourself and share with the world. And again, what I have always found, and I'm sure you will say the same, is that like of course there are trolls on the internet, absolutely. I think we've all had people that have like said nasty things about something we've posted. If you haven't, it will happen one day, but overwhelmingly that's not what happens. Overwhelmingly, there's so many people that are so like grateful and thankful that you shared what you shared. And I think, and same thing, like when I think about like, it's so interesting because I like come across people that like I've known from like my childhood or like whatever that are like on my email list now, and they like respond. I'm like, wow, it's so strange to see like the reach that you can have with people. And I just think those few people who may say negative things or who are haters, like you just have to understand that comes with the territory, and like just don't spend the energy even thinking about them. And like it's always for me, like when people have said like nasty things, I'm like, it's always about them. It's literally not about
Mm-hmm.
anything that I did. And I just think to keep that in mind. But it's just such a beautiful way to share yourself with people. And I think it's just you have like everybody has so much to add to the conversation, whatever industry you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And so what about with personal people, like our families, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Uh Chrissy, I feel like you've had a huge transition in like your beliefs and how you see and view the world and your values, which may not always be congruous with your family. So how do you use your voice in that context, and is it any different?
Oh man. So yeah, I have had like a very like I was again I've said this before, but I was raised in a very very conservative Christian home, and so I've had like a huge shift in beliefs along with like a lot of my siblings, to be honest. But my mother has not shifted her belief systems at all. So I am like my mom. I'm very honest about my beliefs. I'm very honest about my views. We don't agree on most things, to be honest. And I don't like but I'm really honest with her about how I feel about things. And she doesn't agree with me at all, not even a little bit, not even a tad. And I'm positive that she wonders how I ended up the way that I am.
Mm,
And she just usually ends by saying she's going to pray for me again. Like, so again, my mom is a very like she has her beliefs, but she's never conveyed to me that like she loves me any less because I have a different belief system than her. She's also not a combative person, so it hasn't been like a source of tension between us at all. We just know that we have different belief systems. So I think I've been really fortunate in that regard, because it hasn't been like a source of strife for us.
mm.
But yeah, I mean, definitely she does not agree with a lot of my choices at this point in my life. So
That's
yeah.
like, I think that's the hardest one. I think it's almost, I actually feel like my family is, we all very much share opinions. But I've definitely used my voice in a way that's probably ruffled some feathers more about probably family dynamics,
Yeah.
and stuff like
Hmm.
calling stuff out. And it's like, it's hard because I also think you and I come from families that have the foundation is love and trust, and
Yeah. Hmm.
and I know that that's not the lived experience for everyone, and perhaps some of our listeners. And so I know that at the end of the day, if I say something that's going to displease someone or make someone feel uncomfortable, we can figure out a way to come back and
Right.
figure it out, and whether or not we agree with one another or not. And I know that's not everyone's experience. And so I that for me is like, that's really tough when you know that what you believe, what you think, what you want to express, and what you are expressing is not really accepted by your family, and that affects their opinion of you. And if you don't have that love there and that foundation there, that's really, really hard.
I totally agree. And so same thing, like I think we do have that experience which makes it much easier, but that is not the case for so many people. And so I don't know how that feels to have such staunchly different views, and to know that like for some people like that means like your family wouldn't talk to you.
Right.
Right. Like I don't have that, and I don't I don't know. I don't even know what to say in terms of like how you navigate that, because I've never had that experience, but it's really, really hard.
Because I know the experience of not being able to use your voice and what that's like, and I can't imagine being in the family context. So, I mean, to anyone who has that experience going on, like me and Cressy are sending you so much love. And I would,
Yeah.
the only thing I would say is to really like just really develop like compassion for yourself, not even for them, like who cares
For
about them,
you.
like for you. Like I think we're so good at being like, oh my god, them. No, like compassion for yourself first and foremost, and create the community that you desire, like outside of your family. So you, whether or not, because I know some people are like, you know what, I'll just deal with it, and some people are like, no, I don't want to deal with it. But regardless, having that like support system around you that's like, we got your back, we totally agree with your opinions. Like, of course, it's not like you're a dictatorship here, but like,
Right.
that they're supportive of how you feel and how you express yourself. But that's the only thing I can think of,
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And then on a slightly different note, one thing I am a little nervous about though is when it comes to like family dynamics and speaking your truth, is that I'm kind of like working on a book of essays. I don't know how one is kind of working on it, but like some of that stuff like is going to be about family stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's like a hard thing to navigate too, because there's some things I'm sure people would rather not me share with the entire world. My dad passed away earlier this year in January. Like I have a lot of feelings around that and like some of the events surrounding that. And like I'm not really sure how like all of my siblings are gonna feel about some of the things that I share. And I don't know, that's like a hard space for me to navigate, but like a lot of it is really important. Like I need to share that as part of like what I'm talking about. So that'll be interesting. And I'm really curious to see how people, and even with my relationship that recently ended, like sharing some of that stuff and like navigating that, recognizing that like my ex is still a person, right? And like this involves him as well. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I think that's also a part of the sharing your truth when it involves like people that are close to you can be like really difficult territory to like navigate.
And it's super hard to navigate because then if you find yourself censoring the story or like kind of
Right.
changing the story, the narrative to accommodate them, then it's not really authentic or truthful to you, but it
Yeah.
involves them. So that is actually a really hard thing to navigate. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to read your book, but
Well, thank you. You
good
know
luck with
what?
that.
I'm just gonna put it out. I'm gonna do like I did. I'm gonna put it out and I'm gonna run, and then we'll see what happens. No.
But yeah, is there any final thoughts we have around like using your voice?
I just want to say you gotta say it and you gotta be confident about it. Like guys, with the confidence of 1,000 white men, you just gotta say the thing. you know?
Yes.
And it definitely scary, but I will say, honestly, the more you do it, you feel more confident, and more competent in speaking your truth and speaking your opinion. And it gets a little bit easier every single time. Never to say that like nothing ever scares me anymore, because that would be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely more comfortable than I've ever been speaking my truth, and more comfortable with people not liking me, more comfortable with people not liking my opinion, more comfortable with people unfollowing, and recognizing that those just weren't the right people, and maybe they'll come back some other time. And if they don't, that's fine too. And just like, it's really funny, when you were talking about the unfollow thing, because there's that feature in Instagram where you can see in your insights like how many people followed that week and how many people unfollowed. And like some weeks I'm like, oh, 95 of y'all had a problem with what I said. I only said one goddamn thing this week. What was wrong with that thing? And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Doesn't even matter. It's literally not about me. And just like trying to disconnect from the feeling of like people unsubscribing or people unfollowing, and like it doesn't have anything to do. I mean, yes, it's about me in the sense that it's my work, but it's not personal. It doesn't say anything about who I am as a person. And just like not connecting to that part of it, and just again remembering this is like expression of self, and this is what I want to share with the world. And it's not, I think the last thing I'll share that's really been helpful for me is that when I'm writing something, I always remember like this is me writing this for myself. And if someone else benefits from this work, like awesome. But it's not with the intention of like I'm writing it to impress people or for other people. So that's been really helpful for me too.
I love that because I think even with me in my writing and when I'm expressing something, it's always something that I need to hear or I'm working through.
Yeah.
And those always feel like the easiest things to express. And when I start thinking about other people, not that like the work I do is in service of other people, but it just feels like so disconnected. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel right to me. And I would just say that like I said this before, but it's like someone out there really needs to hear what you have to say in the exact way that you say it.
Yes.
And the more you delay, you are delaying that person from having that healing or that discovery or that kinship or that connectedness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really, we've talked about perfectionism before. I think a lot of us wait for the perfect time, the perfect context, the perfect post, the perfect way to say it to express ourselves. And that other person on the other end is not waiting for perfect. They're just waiting for that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like some of my best posts have had typos, have had half-assed, like I thought it, Chrissy's like me too. Yeah. Like, or half-assed formed ideas that I was like, I don't know, fuck, this feels good,
Put it
but
out.
put it out there,
It's happening.
or just things that I thought I think this is good. But cause you just put it out there and you'll just find that someone will pop in your DMs or someone in your personal life will just be so happy that you shared that thing. And one of my mottos for this year has been like, prove yourself wrong. And it's just like what it's like, there will always be that voice that's like, I don't know about this. I don't know if this is a good idea. Maybe we should just prove yourself wrong and just see how good it feels to be wrong.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that so much.
I think that's going to be a post. I think it's
I
going to
love
be enough.
that. Prove yourself wrong. I love it. It's so
Prove
great.
yourself wrong.
Yeah, and also like going along with what you just said, I think like the less we try to predict, you know how sometimes you spend so much time on something like this is groundbreaking. This post is going to change the world.
Yeah.
And then you post it and it's like crickets. You're like, okay, I guess it's wrong. And then there's days where you're like, all right, this is cool. I'm gonna post this. And they're like, oh my God, this is earth shattering. Where have you
Yes.
been all my life?
Yes.
Right. So that just goes, so like just put the work out there because like there's no way to tell. There isn't a way to
Yes.
tell. Put it out there. Don't worry about being perfect. I have typos in my stuff all the time. Shirin will text me. How many times do you text me like, hey girl, you got like some extra words in there?
I feel like I'm like, you're like,
She's my copy editor. She's my copy editor, y'all. So
yeah,
it happens. And again, it's not a big deal, right? Like it doesn't take away from the message. So you don't have to be perfect. Look at my writing if you want to see that. Just do it anyways.
And also on that point, which is like, I know we've been talking a lot about someone out there needs to tell is going to need your, there, a lot of times they don't tell you anything, right?
Oh,
a
yes.
lot of the times.
Yes.
So that's the thing. Like, and when Chrissy was saying like, you'll post something and you're like, this is the greatest thing of all time. And nobody likes it or there's just a lot less likes on it, whatever. That doesn't matter. That's why you have to stay so true to what you want to be writing about, because you're like, okay, that's what I wanted to express. And know that like someone out there probably read it and it felt good to them, but if it has to first feel good to you, because if the stuff you're putting out into the world feels good to you, doesn't feel good to you, and you're getting all the likes or all the accolades in the world, it's just not going to feel good. Trust me, it won't feel good. The process of writing or expressing yourself won't be easy. You cannot be thinking about them ever. It's all about you, right? This is your voice.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
That's all I got.
That's me too. We've done the thing today.
We did a thing. We used our voice. You listened to our voices. We actually don't have a asking for a friend this week. We would love one for next week. So, hit us up in the DMs, but also, we are going to come out with season 2. So please rate, review this podcast, write, a write-up for us. We love hearing from you. DM us and follow us, TGTS, and also our different pages. I'm Wholehearted Coaching, and Chrissy is.
I am Chrissy King.
And yeah, so Chrissy, you have anything you want to sign off with?
I just want to say I have had the most fun doing this podcast. The conversations have been great. The feedback has been amazing. We really, really appreciate y'all listening and telling us how much you like it and sharing stuff in the DMs, telling us that, you know, you like the stories. Like, it's just been so great. And Shirin, you're just like an amazing co-host. So it's been so fun having this season with you, but we're coming back for season 2. So we'll be back. We don't know when yet, but we'll let you know all the details. And if you have some things you want us to talk about on season 2, though, absolutely DM us, let us know. But yeah, we'll be back. It's been so much fun. And also tune in for next week's bonus episode, because you got to hear the stories that we choose.
Yeah. So we will talk to you next week. Okay. Until then, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of TGTS. If you like today's episode, please subscribe, review, or leave a comment for us. And please share the TGTS love. Until next week, bye.